So, once again, our training today is on person centered planning. That is our topic we're going to be talking about. As always, our trainings are conducted in a safe zone. We want you to feel free to share your thoughts and feelings and ideas openly in the chat. If you're joining us on Zoom, if you're joining us on Facebook, please let us know in the comments. If you have questions, this is a safe zone. We want to hear from you all. If you have joined us in the past, then you know that we always like to start out with a Mentimeter. So I'm going to stop sharing in a little bit, but we would like you to go to menti.com. You can either go to the website or scan the QR code and then enter the code that you see there in orange, which I think will drop in the chat for you as well. And Anthony, do you want to take it away there?
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone. Like Nicole mentioned, we like to start every training just to get a sense of how everyone's doing around this topic, see your familiarity and ask some follow-up questions with just a quick survey. So if you don't mind, please hop onto menti.com and use the access code that we shared in the chat. I believe the code is 8559182. And as you guys join, we're just going to start with a little bit of an icebreaker question so you can get familiar with the website and how to answer these things. So right off the bat, it's October. We want to think about Halloween and, we're just asking you guys, what do you prefer? Candy corn or chocolate? And it looks like we've already got some responses here. We got people choosing chocolate. I'm team chocolate too. I've got a sweet tooth and candy corn's just got a weird texture to me. It seems a little bit too waxy for my taste. So I'm team chocolate all the way. All right. So thank you guys for answering this first question. We're gonna go ahead and start with just our main question before we dive into the PowerPoint. Has your student transition team talked to you about person-centered planning? We just want to know, how familiar you are with this concept. Have you experienced it before? So feel free to say yes, no, or maybe you're just not sure yet. Maybe you're a parent and you have a child that has a transition team, and we just want to make sure you're aware of this concept because this does influence how a lot of our planning meetings go in school and into adulthood as well. This is a core concept for a lot of disability related service planning. All right, seems like a lot of folks are not quite sure. So they may have experienced it, not 100% sure, but it's likely if you've been in some transition team meetings that they've used some of these concepts. So hopefully with Nicole's presentation, you'll have a better understanding of what that means, what your students' rights are and what your rights are as that parent or guardian or professional. And yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap up with one more question, correct, Nicole? I think it's just an open-ended thing. What do you think person-centered planning means? Let us know just so we can get a sense of what everyone's conception of person-centered planning is. Okay. Looks like we might be experiencing a little bit of a technical glitch. Sometimes Menti can do that. I see Nicole's checking and nodding her head there. So, okay, looks like we got one answer. So maybe a few folks were able to advance the slide. I know sometimes Menti takes a little bit to catch up. Looks like people are thinking that choice and planning that focuses on our students are the main focus of person-centered planning. I think you guys are absolutely on the right track. All right, so that's enough of hearing from me. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it back to Nicole so she can educate you guys about person-centered planning.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Anthony. Bear with me all as I get back into sharing my screen. Um, there we go. I was all zoomed in for a second. There we go. All right. Um, If you have joined us in the past, then you know we kind of have a little bit of a roadmap. We're going to do about 30-ish minutes of basic information. It ends up being a little bit less than that. And then we'll have some time at the end, about 15 minutes of Q&A. So if you have questions along the way, please feel free to ask them. Our time together today has been designed to really give you that basic understanding of what person-centered planning is and how to be sure or how to use the principles in your child's IEP or your individualized education plan, transition plans, supports coordinator plans, individualized support plans. That's what those are. If you have any questions along the way, like I said, please utilize either the Q&A feature or the chat feature. If you're on Zoom, Q&A, you will be anonymous. If you put in the chat, we will see what your name is. If you are on Facebook Live, please drop them into the comments and we will be monitoring those and be able to answer those questions. Last note before we get started, we are not coming to this presentation and any future presentations that we might do as experts on the services or strategies that we are discussing. However, what we can offer you is that if we don't know the answer to the question that you might be asking, we are really willing to help you find the correct answer or send you in the direction of somebody who might have that correct answer. Also, just another disclaimer, today you're not going to be certified in person-centered. Once again, we're doing that basic information after during today's session. We're just giving you that basic information so that you can implement those principles for your child's plans in school. So let's get into it. Let's start talking about person-centered planning already. So we're going to start with the history because I feel like I really like to be able to be grounded a little bit in that history. So person-centered planning started as a way to give people with disabilities more control and choice in their lives. Sounds great, right? Years ago, many people, as you might know, were placed actually into institutions, and it wasn't their choice to be there. They were just placed in there by families who thought that that was the best option for them. Those choices were made for them, not really with them when they were placed into those institutions. But advocates along the way, including families like many of you who are joining us, really worked hard to change that. Laws like the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, helped push for dignity, inclusion, and really real opportunities. So today, person-centered planning continues to be that movement that focuses on what each person wants for their own future. So we're going to look at a couple more features of person-centered planning, and then we're going to look at some tools. So what exactly is person-centered planning? We looked at the history just a little bit. It's really truly a way to look at helping your child to take charge of their future, your student to take charge of their future. It focuses on what your child or your student wants, not just what others on the team might think they should do or could do based on their view or their limited work with your child. It helps to set goals for school, work, friendships, life after graduation, etc. And it's really truly a team effort. So we know that individuals are different in different spaces. They might act different at school than they are at home, or they might act different in the community that they do in home or at school, etc. So families, schools, and communities kind of really work together from different people from those different areas work together to support those dreams. It's really truly a team effort of everybody coming to the table and putting in a piece of that individual, of who they are. So, what is a parent's role in person centered planning? Well, as parents and family members, you play the most important role in this process. You know your child best. Ultimately, you're seeing your child in all of those different areas that we talked about already: education, community, and at home, right? So, you know their likes, you know their dislikes, you know their personality, you know their dreams, you know what they want. You also know what works for them. You know their supports, what supports work, what supports don't work. So you can help by sharing what makes them unique, by speaking up for what matters to them, and by supporting them as they share their own voice, building those self-advocacy skills that we've talked about in the past. So your job is to really make sure that your child's hopes and strengths are always front and center in their plan. So you can not only help them to speak up for themselves or to self-advocate, but also to be that voice in the background as well, for your child if maybe your student isn't involved in the meeting or they're not there at that moment, or whatever that might look like. So how do I know my student's plan is person-centered? How can you spot a person-centered plan? Well, there's a couple questions that you might be able to ask yourselves. So, does it reflect what they want? Does it reflect what my student wants maybe in their life, maybe what they want right now? Does it reflect their goals? Is their voice included in the meetings? Do they have a seat at the table? Are they leading their meetings? Are they involved, whether it's the whole time, part time, whatever that might look like? Are their strengths, dreams, and preferences highlighted in that plan? Are we talking about what it is that they want to do? Do they have real choices? Are we giving them real choices that are based on those strengths, those dreams, those preferences? If you answer yes to these questions, then we can consider that plan person-centered. We can consider it strong or towards the direction of being a strong person-centered plan. So in a couple slides, we're going to look at some tools and we're going to dive into those tools a little bit. But we wanted to go through and give you some implementation strategies for those tools that we're going to be talking about. So before we look at them, we're going to look at these implementation for a second. So we want to start with that person at the center. We want to begin by learning who that person is, what matters to them, and how they communicate. We want to make sure that we're using active listening and we're respecting their communication style, no matter what that might be, whether it is verbal, nonverbal, visual, sign language, using a communication device, whatever it is. Ultimately, that's their plan, so we wanna be respectful of that. We want to create a safe, comfortable environment for that person. Ultimately, we should be trying to hold these meetings or these discussions in a place that is familiar or relaxing to that individual. We want to provide and build trust within that space, allow time for that open conversation, including some think time, some wait time, that sort of thing, for individuals to answer those questions that might be posed. Use visuals and simple language. Many of the person-centered plan tools that we're going to look at are very visual by design. So we use drawings, there might be charts, there might be symbols. They also might be in digital format as well. Either way, that's valid visual design of these tools that we're going to look at. We also want to avoid using jargon. We want to keep that language very clear. We want to keep it very accessible. We want to keep it very plain language. We also don't want to focus on the human service like language that might be out there. We're keeping it very positive as well. To that person and also to the support group as well. So everybody is on the same page. That's why we want to avoid using jargon. We want to avoid using those acronyms, all of that sort of stuff. Keep it kind of plain language. We want to include that support team or circle, depending on how you want to refer to it. That team refers to family, friends, mentors, educators, service providers, etc. It's really just a group of people who really know that person well, similar to an individualized education plan meeting, right? It's a bunch of people at the table who are all there for the same reason, right? We want to make sure that this individual is being supported while they're in school through their education. We want to always encourage contributions from each person to create that well-rounded view. Once again, we know that individuals are different in different areas, so we want to keep that well-rounded view of what might work and what doesn't work in specific environments. Focusing on those strengths, those preferences, and dreams, we're asking open-ended questions that bring out that person's likes, talents, hopes, and priorities. In this area, when we're looking at those and focusing on those strengths and preferences, we can use tools like and admire that we're going to look at, important to or for, and good day, bad day to kind of really guide the discovery of these areas of what these might look like. When we are in a person-centered planning meeting, or we're in a meeting that is following the principles of person-centered planning, there will be a facilitator, and the role of that facilitator is to really just guide the process, not really control it. So we're not having one person who's constantly in control of everything. We're kind of facilitating that process. If anybody is in control at that table, it is our student, our person, that we're planning for. They really have the control of everything that is being done. We're making sure that as we're having conversations, as we're facilitating these conversations, guiding the process, we want to be flexible, we want to be responsive, we want to let the person lead that the plan is about as much as possible. Uh, as I said before, we're using visual tools and we're going to look at those. They're also very personalized as well. So we're going to look at some one-page profiles, some maps, path charts. These are all very visually appealing and reflective of that individual's voice and who they are. We're using their own words when we're documenting those ideas. We're going to revisit and update this plan regularly. It's another important piece of the implementation of these tools. Person-centered planning is really designed to be a living process. So the tools that we're going to look at are very much need to be updated regularly because we know that a person changes or they grow, circumstances changes as well. We know life happens, right? So we want to make sure that the profiles and the things that the plans that we put in place also shift with those circumstances as well, with life. Um, Using the information for real life planning. So we want to link what we've learned from the tools that we're using to maybe real goals, right? So employment, education, housing, relationships, daily living, etc. And then we're going to apply those insights to our plans, right? So we're going to use these tools that we're going to look at, and then we're going to use those tools once we've built them, once we've put them together, we're going to apply the insights that we've found from those tools in our plans, in our individualized education plan, in our transition plan, in our individualized support plan, etc. And then down there at the bottom, as always, we are empowering self-advocacy. We're helping that individual to express their wants and needs confidently throughout the session, throughout the planning tools, etc. We want to use tools as practice for goal setting, decision making, communicating preferences in those different settings. And if you think about all of those things that I just said, goal setting, decision making, communication, these are all really important pieces of that transition from high school into the adult world, right? After you leave high school, you're gonna need to do some goal setting, do some decision making, and be able to express those communication preferences. Okay, so there are a lot of tools that can help with planning, but we have selected just a couple to kind of look at during our time together. So, person centered planning tools like the ones listed on the screen can be really powerful additions to your child's IEP. They help the team just to see your child as a whole person, not just a list of goals or needs. By sharing these tools, you can make sure your child's strengths, preferences, and dreams really just guide the entire process that is made in their plan. and the decisions that are made in their plan. So over the course of the next couple slides, we are going to take a look at each of these tools because I think that it's easier to see the visual of them than just to have the kind of the verbal synopsis of them. But we did want to include that as well, just in case, so you don't have to feverishly write down everything that I am saying. So we're going to look at these individually together. So first up, we're going to talk about one-page profiles. So a one-page profile is just a simple way to introduce your child to others, teachers, employers, support staff, a new supports coordinator, whoever it might be. It really just highlights who they are, what's important to them, and how they like to be supported. It's really a great first step in helping others see your child's strengths, personality right away. I feel like one-page profiles are really great uh, for before your student leaves school. This is a really great way that you can put this together with their insight at home to be given to a new teacher that they might have. You could start this as young as, I know some of you are here because you have transition age youth, but you could start this as young as kindergarten for them to start implementing these with your teachers that they might be seeing, some new teachers they might be seeing when we're in those transition periods, when they're going from maybe a middle school to a high school, or there's a new teacher coming, or whatever it might look like. But like I said before, also when you're making those meetings to start working with a supports coordinator, you can take a one-page profile like this that has your student's voice written right there. So you can see that it is very visual. We have those visuals at the bottom, but it's also listed out, bulleted out the things that are important to, in this instance, Dennis, what's important to him. He's athletic, he likes sports, he loves the Hard Rock, he volunteers, he's a contributor, he has a sense of humor, but he's also very empathetic. He's a very physical person, he likes to stay active, he has goals, he wants to graduate, he wants to get a job, he wants to own a house and maybe have a roommate, and he wants to stay active. And then also what's really important that's listed there is what works and what doesn't. I think this is very important, not only for that student to be self-aware, but also to be able to give to a new teacher, to a new supports coordinator, because we've already identified some of these things. And when we're writing those plans, we know what's important to that student, and then also it's a good jumping off point for writing those goals of what supports might be needed for that individual. Like I said, just a really great first step. This is really used, like I said, to get to know that person very quickly and introduce them to somebody new. Okay, so the next one that we're going to look at is planning alternative tomorrows with hope, or PATH. This is a group activity that you work with your child uh, to imagine their dream future and then work backwards to plan the steps to get there. So it's very creative, it's very visual. People often use this, use drawings, use colors, keywords to bring this plan to life. You might want to use this when your individual is stuck and they need to find something to look forward to. Maybe they have a team of caring friends and family that want to help, but maybe don't know how to help. You can kind of do this to help to have them get some ideas of where they can help along the process. You have a student who has an idea of the future that they want, but they might not know the steps to get there. They might not know what those smaller achievable goals might be to get us there. And that's where PATH can really help. We can have our ultimate goal at the top, and then we kind of work backwards with some other pieces along the way as well to help. So MAPS is our next one. So MAP stands for making action plans. It really helps to explore your child's story, their past, their gifts, and their dreams for the future. The group then creates a plan with clear, positive actions to move forward. It's really another great tool to build shared understanding and teamwork within the entire team. So you can discuss both. You can use this to discuss both dreams and goals, but also some of those fears that that student might have. You can look at both past situations and future situations and recognize gifts and strengths of that individual all within this same kind of plan, this same kind of visual profile of this individual. So maps is another one that we can use as well. Very visual, as we were talking about. Um, our next one here is the 4+1. These are just questions that are very simple, but they're also very powerful. Okay. So the four main questions are what's working, what's not working, and what have we learned? And then what will we do next? What is the next kind of piece, right? And then the plus one that we have is what are we wondering about? What is the thing that's going to help us? This really just helps that team to focus on what's really important and keep that plan really growing over time. This is a really great tool to help us when we're doing those like reviews, when we're doing those plans where we're looking at those profiles and saying what is working, what's not working. The 4+1 tool questions are really great for that. So you might use this when multiple approaches may have been used with little success. Maybe you're currently stuck using maybe a specific approach and we want to shake it up a little bit. It's very gentle and quick approach. It's need that might be needed to support ongoing efforts. It's also a good tool for follow-up and review, like I said, of maybe those current supports that may or may not be working, and we can get feedback from the person on that. A couple more before we wrap up. Good day, bad day. This is a tool that helps your child explain what makes a good day or what makes a bad day. So, for example, who they like to be around, maybe what kind of work they enjoy, or what makes them frustrated maybe in a given day. It's a great way to understand routines as well, preferences, and also what kind of supports that they recognize help them to thrive. So you might use this when detailed information by that student describing what a typical day looks like in detail. So you can get a lot of detail, a lot of good information out of this one. And like I said, giving a lot of insights on those routines. It also is a great moment to just recognize what a good day is versus what a bad day is from that student's perspective. This one also allows a lot of discussion to develop those actions to create more good days versus bad days, right? Nobody wants to have a bad day. So what can we do to create those more good days than bad days? Okay, so important two or important four, this tool looks at two sides of the student's life. So what's important to them, these are things that make them happy. These are things that make them feel valued or included. And then what's important for them. So these are the things that keep them safe and healthy. These are the supports that help them. And the goal of this one is really to find the right balance between the two, right? So we know that students might need to have supports, but how do we balance those supports so that that student can feel as if they have a full and meaningful life, even with those supports or whatever they might look like? So we might use this when that individual feels as if they aren't being heard about what really matters to them, where that individual may be withdrawn or has limited opportunities for that self advocacy, or where there have been changes in that individual's maybe physical or mental health. So maybe we need to take a look because there have been a lot of changes in the life, and maybe we need to reevaluate what is important to and what is important for them, so that we can balance the two, like I said. All right, so that was our last one. I want to wrap up here with some few reminders, some things to remember. So, person centered planning is really truly all about your student's voice. You, as a parent, are a vital partner in helping that voice to be heard. The tools that we discussed are very flexible, so you can use what works. If one doesn't work for your kid, that's fine. You don't have to use that one, you can choose another one. You can use multiple of them. That's what they're there for. We use those person-centered planning tools in the IEP. Just really helps that child's strengths, preferences, and dreams to lead the planning, not just what those needs might be or what those supports might be. Um, and most of all, every child really deserves a future that reflects truly who they are, because ultimately it is going to be their future. It is going to be their career. It's going to be their recreational activities that they want to be involved in. So it all really should reflect on their choice of what they want to do. As always, we have resources available on our Padlet. The recording of today's session will be posted on there as well. The PowerPoint from today's session will be posted there as well, either later today or by the end of the week for sure. But we want to make sure there will be other resources available there too. If you're new to our sessions, you can find all of our previous recordings available there as well. And I'm sure that one of my co-presenter has have put that in the chat for you. If not, can we drop it?